So it's live.
Live, hey, welcome back. This is Old New Dude and co-host.
Richard York, Asher's trueborn son.
We appreciate you coming back. Bran 3. Oh my goodness. What a chapter. As normal, we'll start with the brains of the operations.
Yeah, you got plenty of time. You might want to jump in here because there's so much here.
Yeah, I got quite a bit. I got like 27 different things written down. I mean, I got quite a bit going on this chapter. I went through
as we were discussing before we went live, I've mentioned one of the craziest ideas that might actually be true, even though I don't kind of in some ways I don't want it to be.
Yeah.
It seemed as though he had been falling for years. So that reminds me of the North went on forever.
Yeah. I was testing our sound. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. It was cold here in the darkness. There was no sun, no stars, only the ground below coming up to smash him, and the gray mists and the whispering voice. He wanted to cry. Not cry, fly. I can't fly, Bran said. I can't. How do you know? Have you ever tried? So in A Feast for Crows, the Reaver. When I was a boy, I dreamt that I could fly, he announced. When I woke, I couldn't, or so the maester said. But what if he lied? Victarion could smell the sea through the open window, through the rooms, though the rooms stank of wine and blood and sex. The cold salt air helped to clear his head. What do you mean? Euron turned to face him, his bruised blue lips curled in a half smile. Perhaps we can fly, all of us. How will we ever know unless we leap from some tall tower? The wind came gusting through the window and stirred his sable cloak. There was something obscene and disturbing about his nakedness. No man ever truly knows what he can do unless he dares to leap. Victarion is with a red priest, saved at sea by the Lord of Light, and encouraging his men to follow. Aeron was saved at sea by the drowned god and encourages his men to follow. Euron sounds like he may have been saved by the old gods. And according to A Song of Ice and Toodles, Balon looks exactly like the High Sparrow, who encourages men to follow the Seven. Perhaps he is Balon. So there's some great things about that, and there's some not so great things about that. So
yeah.
So I don't like Balon. I don't want him to be alive. I don't want him to obtain a political power. But it makes him match his brothers. Toodles goes into great detail about why we sort of know that Asha and many of the other Ironborn have bare feet and hardened feet, and it's very subtle, and yet it's kind of there.
Right.
And historically, sailors tended to do that quite a bit. There's some problems with that. Like Victarion clearly wears boots, and he was definitely wears boots in his fights and things. But
yeah.
But it does seem like there might be something there, and it definitely makes him match his brother, and it also makes the faceless man the bloated body that looks nothing like Balon with its eyes eaten, which would make the faceless man the faceless man. So I mean, there's some good things about it. My main problem with it is I just don't want Balon to be alive.
Yeah, I agree with you on that part. Like I told you, as soon as I read that in the email, I mean, my little spider sense went tingling. Like, oh, I love something new! Yay!
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Let me throw what I got in on up till this point. The falling for years part, which might play in later on when you talk about Preston Jacobs. But that just tells me that, damn, how long has this boy been falling? Has he been falling as soon as he went into the coma? Is he? I mean, does the concept of time here just not really?
Yeah, I think that's mostly what it is, right? It's the concept of time. And we kind of get into that too, because some of these visions, like, are they the future?
Right.
Right. So it's probably. Yeah. I'm guessing it's that there's basically no concept of time here.
Right, and then the voice whispered in the darkness, maybe a hint that the voice is from the darkness.
Well,
you know,
and in a way that's true anyway, because
right,
we know that the future Bran, if it is future Bran, seems to like the dark, right? Even
right,
though he doesn't. In fact, he says he likes the dark when he's messing with Jon and giving him his third eye, and then
right.
later he learns he's taught not to fear the dark after that, which is part of
Right.
why people think it's a time travel, right?
Well, I mean, he prefers the dark when he's in the cave with Bloodraven, just for the simple fact that he can't see Bloodraven because he doesn't like looking at him.
Well,
So
there's
he prefers
specifically a
the dark.
line about how he needs to learn to embrace the darkness or something, and this is after he's told Jon that he likes the darkness.
Right. And it was also cold in the darkness, absence of light. I mean, darkness and
Right,
winter, in my mind, are just
and
really close together.
As Preston has said, he may not have fully committed to. I mean, he places all these seeds. He looks at he leaves all these options open, and he may not have fully committed to the time travel when he first had that, because you could argue, well, he was in the crypts. The crypts smelled like death, in addition to Bloodraven smelling like death, and
Yeah.
it's somewhat ambiguous, but then it becomes more and more definitive as the story goes on.
Right.
Say, got any corn? Bran reached into his pocket as the darkness spun dizzily around him. When he pulled his hand out, golden kernels slid from between his fingers into the air. They fell with him. The crow landed on his hand and began to eat. Are you really a crow? Bran asked. And then a little later, how hard can it be? I'm doing it. The crow took to the air and flapped around Bran's hand. You have wings, Bran pointed out. Maybe you do too. Bran felt along his shoulders, groping for feathers. There are different kind of wings, the crow said. So this crow is 100% certain he's a crow.
Yes.
If you claim the crow is Bloodraven and that he doesn't know he is a crow, you are incorrect. Bran, also the name Bran means crow, and if the show is to be believed, we are seeing the past already changed by Bran in the future.
Right.
So,
and well, you skipped the line right after that. So if we go with it's a crow, you're a crow, you're flapping like a crow, you're really a crow, and then because he asks, "Are you a crow?" And then the guy's like, or the crow's like, "Are you really falling?" So if it's really a crow, then Bran is really falling.
But he's not really a crow, and Bran's not really falling.
Yeah,
arguably. I mean, it's debatable.
It's a half cup kind of thing.
Yeah. But definitely the crow knows he's a crow, because they're literally talking about him being a crow, and he's asking for corn, and he's mentioning that, yes, in my form I have wings, but maybe you also have metaphorical wings, or maybe you know. So I mean, so the crow knows that he has physical wings.
Right.
He's been specifically referred to as a crow. He's asking for corn.
Yes.
The idea that he doesn't know he's a crow is just clearly wrong.
I mean, I don't like knocking people's theory and all that kind of stuff, and I try not to. I don't theory bash or anything, but I mean, in my mind, there's no way it could be Bloodraven.
Or at least the explanation that he doesn't know he's a crow seems to be wrong.
Right. I mean,
it could still be Bloodraven, but you know, he could just be a confused old man. He's like, oh yeah, I was a crow and I came to you in your dream. You know, he's like, a crow? Yeah, I used to be a night's watchman. You know, I mean, he's like, but you know, I mean, maybe he's just a confused old man, but I don't think so.
I don't either. And the crow in this situation seems to be pretty sharp. So I mean, he's spot on with responses and things.
Right.
So.
Right, and same thing with when we see Brendan. He's not. You know, he's reasonably lucid.
Right. I mean, you don't want a crazy, not remember nothing person teaching Bran how to be a Grimseer.
Yes. The whole world was spread out below him, a tapestry of white and brown and green. He could see everything so clearly that for a moment he forgot to be afraid. He could see the whole realm and everyone in it. He saw Winterfell as the eagles see it, the tall towers looking squat and stubby from above, the castle walls just lines in the dirt. So we discussed in Bran's previous chapter how he views the world from above like a god, and that he enjoys that. And so once again, he's enjoying the clarity of seeing from above.
Definitely.
A storm was gathering ahead of them, a vast dark roaring, lashed by lightning, but somehow they could not see it. So I think Bran might mean literally, but I think our author means metaphorically as well.
Right. The storm that's about to befall House Stark is on that boat, headed south.
Yep.
Dagger and Cat. Those two things going south is to the beginning of the end for some of this stuff. So it is a huge storm that are coming that she brought on without knowing.
Yep. He saw his father pleading with the king, his face etched with grief. He saw Sansa crying herself to sleep at night, and he saw Arya watching in silence and holding her secrets hard in her heart. There were shadows all around them. One shadow was dark as ash, with the terrible face of a hound. Another was armored like the sun, golden and beautiful. Over them both loomed a giant in armor made of stone, but when he opened his visor, there was nothing inside but darkness and thick black blood. And I don't know for certain who that's intended to be. I mean, I know it's intended to invoke the concept of Gregor and the idea of a head being sent away, and the black blood representing the undead and so forth. But it's still a little weird, right? That looming over them both, like Gregor's role doesn't seem big enough for that.
Yeah, it's a Rorschach test because each person sees something different there, and that is brought on by what they think. When I first read that, I'm thinking Titan of Bravos.
Yeah, that's why I put Littlefinger on my list.
Titan of Bravo makes me think of Littlefinger. And then, I mean, the black blood is, in my mind, all right, cool, was that, because I don't know if you remember my theory or not, but I say the three-eyed crow is not Bran, and has visited Littlefinger, Varys, Euron. I mean, I say that the three-eyed crow is playing the Game of Thrones through Littlefinger, and then the black blood is just a little bit of a nod saying that Littlefinger is working with the darkness, the cold. I mean, it's a stretch, I know.
Yeah, but like I said, it's very open to interpretation.
Yeah.
So also worth noting that seems to be like what's taking place right then, right? Because the concept is that Bran wakes up with Lady's death, perhaps, and so he's literally seeing the things right before Lady's death, right?
Well, I mean that's kind of on the show too, because as soon as Lady dies on the show, they have Bran's eyes opening,
right,
and he's seeing Sansa crying in this. So is he looking at the future, or I mean? In my mind, most of this stuff, none of this stuff he should know. None of this stuff can be made up in his head. He should have, like, he felt his skin and all that kind of stuff, and there's like skin over bones. That shouldn't happen. If you're in a coma and you're falling, you should not know that you're whittled down to just skin and bones. That's freaky.
Yeah, he's definitely not constrained by time and space here.
Right.
To a shy by the shadow where dragons stirred beneath the sunrise. So we're specifically told right here that there are dragons in a shy, which is before Dany is astonished when told there are not. So it's really kind of interesting, right? Where it's everybody's like, well, there's only 3 dragons in the story. There's only room for these 3 dragons in the story. But this is really seems to be contradicting that. I don't know what to make of it. I don't think we're going to suddenly have more than the 3 dragons, with the possible exception of an ice dragon powering the wall, because I do like the ice dragon powering the wall, trapped in the wall kind of concept. But other than the potential that there's an ice dragon trapped inside the wall, I don't expect to see more dragons.
Now,
I don't know.
Yeah, those that believe that the dragons, the 3 dragons, were the girl that stole them and sailed around the world, and they made their way over to Shy, and they come from Shy to Illyrio to give to Dany to mind meld or dragon meld with them, and then intentionally, Illyrio wants Dany to bring the now hatched dragons back to Shy. So I mean, at this point in the story, is it the plots that are going to be happening with the Shy, which George is not going to get to because it's
probably dropped, right? It's probably dropped. It's certainly an interesting little seed that he planted there that doesn't quite fit with most of what we've been thinking.
Yeah.
John sleeping alone in a cold bed, his skin growing pale and hard as the memory of all warmth fled from him. So I but is this the future? Because all warmth fleeing from him doesn't seems like a bit of an exaggeration for Bran to be making if it's
Right.
present, right?
Well, I mean, I think of it as, okay, this is John having to harden himself. He's no longer the bastard of Winterfell that has a better life than just about anybody else in the kingdom except for actual noble blood, trueborn, and all that stuff.
Right.
Well, he's in his eyes have been lifted, and he's definitely having a harder time than he thought he would. So he's toughening up, and then also being that close to the wall, because I mean, he's there. It's the hinge of the world. Now, is this the wall, or being so close to the hinge of the world? Is this awakening any ice powers the Starks have in his bloodline? I mean, I go crazy with this stuff sometimes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, maybe it's interesting, right? It's the only thing that's clearly seems to be either like Bran being metaphorical and exaggerating, or I mean, even if it's John, hardening his heart, it's still being somewhat metaphorical in how he says this, right? It's a little bit out of place, and that Bran is sort of being either deliberately metaphorical or looking into the future, or both, right?
Right.
So, he looked deep into the heart of winter, and then he cried out, afraid, and the heat of his tears burned on his cheeks. Now you know, the crow whispered as it sat on his shoulder. Now you know why you must live. Why? Bran said, not understanding, falling. Because winter is coming. I put the crow's a Stark. The Stark named Bran, which means crow.
On that part, I got I mean, we get the distance. It's several words in places above the wall. Just keep going and going. Curtain of light, and then you're past the curtain of light, so you're back to that darkness where we started out. The whisper from a darkness in this chapter. We're back to that darkness, and that's where the heart of winter is, because you're past the curtain of light. So you have to be in darkness, right? So he's looking at the heart of winter, and when he cries,
right. So the heart of winter is like, to me, that's like permanent night, right? Like the land of the midnight sun, or the opposite, right? The land of always darkness, right? So, so if the other's magic is destroyed by the sun, that's where it's not destroyed, right?
Right. That's where it'll be at its top peak is in the darkness.
Right. That's where it's always dark, and their magic always works, and so they can amass an army, and there can be lots of them, and they can be there and powerful and invading. Yeah.
But then when he cries out, afraid, and the heat of his tears burn on his cheek. Now, here's the thing. The body of an other, a White Walker, with normal temperature tears burn their cheeks. Instead of the tears being heated up somehow, because we got all this icy symbolism going on, is Bran now that cold, and his normal
you're right. It's like he's experiencing an extreme temperature difference between his tears and his skin, as if he's gotten cold just from looking at the heart of winter or something.
Yeah, well, he even tells you he's cold at the beginning of this, and then as soon as he sees the heart of winter, I mean, did he just his icy powers being awakened? I'm not trying to make this a Saturday morning cartoon or nothing, but is there something about the wall and what's past the wall? Is there something about their bloodline, something about their heritage that is affected by these things?
Right. The third eye was full of a terrible knowledge. And so I think it's omniscience, and maybe even the knowledge that you have to do, some terrible things to get the desired outcome potentially, right?
Right.
So I think it really is sort of a terrible knowledge if you realize that some people have to die for you to win the game of chess as you replay things and so forth.
Right.
He saw the bones of 1,000 other dreamers impaled upon their points. So I really like Preston's idea that these are all of Bran's failed attempts. So some people say, maybe Euron is one of these failed attempts of Bloodraven, but I like it better if the Crow isn't a Bloodraven, and therefore it's the Crow's failed attempts, and if the Crow is Bran, then it's Bran's failed attempts.
Right. Now, I know I'm not the only one to say it, and I tend to get off topic quite a bit, but at the beginning of this chapter, I think we're seeing Westeros and that world exactly as the two entities that are actually playing the big giant game of Cybass. That's how they see the game board, is how Bran sees it when he's fallen. Go ahead. Sorry.
I think that's right. Can a man still be brave if he's afraid? So the Crow knows exactly how to motivate Bran, right?
Yes.
Now, so clearly, whether that's because Bran is omniscient and Bran is the Crow, or the Crow is omniscient, but one way or the other, the Crow seems to be omniscient.
Yeah, well, I was like, is that okay? That's Bran's memory, or is it the Crow's memory, or is it both?
Right.
But yeah, that's that. I like that little section.
But he definitely knows how to motivate him.
Right. That means he well, it's like the beginning of it. He doesn't say out loud in his fall he wanted to cry, but the Crow heard it and said, "Not cry, fly." So
right.
The Crow's definitely got inside scoop on inside Bran.
Yeah, and Bran definitely does that with Jon as well, right? Now, so Bran's definitely capable of doing that, and we don't know if Brynden is, right?
Yeah.
So I at this point I just kind of jumped to the end. But when his brother Robb burst into the room, breathless from his dash up the tower steps, the direwolf was licking Bran's face. Bran looked up calmly. "His name is Summer," he said. So we've talked before about the names of the wolves and what they mean and how they seem to be like the destiny that George had in mind for each of the kids. And the Summer King is the one in all the myths when there's a magical winter who basically ends the magical winter and brings back the life, right? And spring and summer. So naming him Summer could imply he's the Summer King in a story that's specifically about magical winters and magical summers, and
right.
So
yeah, right before that though, you got him. He's feeling his forehead. The place the Crow had pecked him was still burning. And we don't know if that's a fire burning or an ice burning, because we know both can burn.
Right.
Getting to I like to associate cold with the three-eyed crow. And then, where to go? We're left with, is this a dream? Is this the vision? Or the third, and what I probably think, is this all actually happened. Bran's soul, spirit, the Crow, all that stuff fell from the sky. Bran's body's still in that room. I mean, it's an out of body experience. He is seeing everything. Like I said, through like the way he sees the Cybass game board.
And we'll never know, but that's another way of looking at the same thing, right? Is this in Bran's mind, or is it in the astral plane? Is it in outer space? It's
that wasn't me.
No, that's my dog.
That's okay. Well, I mean, even getting back to your you like the Preston's idea of all of those being Bran's failures, that could explain why it felt like it seemed as though he had been falling for years.
Yeah,
that could be because he kept falling and falling and falling and falling over and over and over and over again.
Right, exactly. That makes a lot of sense.
And then you also got a pair of yellow eyes looked into his own, shining like the sun. And then in the cold, I skipped a couple of words. The warmth that came off of the wolf enfolded him as hot as a bath. Bath being it gets everywhere all at once. It's not like a blanket. I mean, it's just everywhere. So you got, the opposing forces. You got that Crow in the darkness and the cold and everything, and you got the wolf now with his golden sun-like eyes that is bringing warmth. And we know warmth equals life, because we've
Right.
been told that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He's licking the exact same spot that his tears were burning shortly before. He's licking his face, but I mean,
Sure. Yeah, no, I like the symbolism as there's some definitely some fire and ice here, right? Some
oh yeah,
either no matter who that is, there's definitely some fire and ice symbolism here.
definitely. I mean, I love this chapter. I mean, I'm not a big Bran, Caitlin, Daenerys, Sansa. I'm getting toward the end. Sansa's were getting a little bit easier to read for me. Bran's is another one of those that I have a hard time reading.
Really?
I'm assuming it's because of the age that George is having to put his mind in. Okay, well, how would a boy this young see the world? And I don't know. It's hard for me to get into it.
I've always liked Bran because he's where most of the magic is, right? And that's the thing that's always most intrigued me is, what the heck is going on here? So I've always looked forward to the Bran chapters as, hey, this is where we get the clues to the real mystery, right? What's going on with the others and so forth, and we get some of that with John and Sam and Melisandre,
right?
But most of it is Bran.
Yeah, I'd say 80% of it's probably Bran's chapters. I mean, Bran and Danny, especially Danny a little bit later.
Yeah, Danny's also another side of the same coin in terms of magic, right? But that's the more of the fire and less of the ice. And I'm the biggest unknowns to me are the ice side. They're with Bran.
Yeah, but it was a good chapter. And then we got, what is it? Catelyn. Can't remember how many chapters there have been.
Your fourth, maybe? I'm not sure.
Well, I know we're at 3 for Bran and everything. I know we had Catelyn at the beginning. And we had
Kat's third chapter is when she's devastated, I believe, and then so this is at least 4th.
Okay.
And I don't think it's a 5th chapter. I think they're 4th.
Okay, not a problem. Now we plan on doing that Friday.
Yeah.
Okay. I like this day in between.
Definitely.
It makes it easier with summer school schedules for the kids and everything. So I mean, you get, especially Bran's chapter, definitely need a little bit more time with that one. So yeah, it was fun. You got anything else?
No, I think that's everything. There's trying to think what we got to look forward to with. I guess this is her 4th chapter is going to be the one where she winds up.
Meeting
getting to King's Landing and Littlefinger and Varys are going to show up, right?
Oh yeah, my I swear the reason we can't get in their heads in this book is because if we did, the whole story would be over with. We'd know.
I don't know. He's able to withhold whatever he wants to withhold, right? I mean, we've been in Mel's head, we've been in Ned's head where he's deliberately trying to not show us a baby and with Lyanna. So no, he's clearly capable of withholding information if he wants to.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because there's information in the next chapter that he withholds from us because he doesn't let us finish the damn sentence.
Yep.
Does Varys know about? Oh yes, he knows. No, about what? What does Varys know about?
Right.
So okay, that'll be Friday. Everybody, we appreciate it. Please leave comments. Shout out to Austin Powers, who left a comment yesterday or the day before, which, I mean, we still chat on Twitter and everything, but if you leave a comment, you get a shout out. The Valentine are still leaving comments. We appreciate it. And that's it for today. I've been Old New Dude, and he's been
Richard York, Asher's trueborn son.
We'll see you Friday. Hopefully I can get this off button to work today.
Have a good one.
Bye.